everybody, welcome back to My Practically Imperfect Life. My name's Abby. I'm a homeschooling mom of two high schoolers. I have a 9th and a 10th grader. And I want to welcome you to my channel where I share all things homeschooling and mom life. So let me start off by apologizing for the lighting. The sun back here just keeps wanting to go back and forth behind clouds. And so occasionally I just look like I have a glowing halo on this side of my face. But it is what it is, and we will work with it today. So one of those things that seemed to change pretty dramatically when my kids were transitioning from middle school to high school is the need to have really good record keeping, to have consistency in how I was grading, and to be able to keep track of those things and put them onto their transcripts. In fact, we really started looking at this when my oldest started 8th grade, because there were several classes that she was taking that were high school level classes, and I wanted her to be able to earn a high school credit. And so I knew at that point I really needed to have a good system for keeping track of her grades, easily figuring out what those grades would be, and then also being able to share that information with her, because I wanted her to be accountable for things. If she wanted to earn the A, she needed to know what exactly she had to do for her classes in order to get that. So the first thing I knew that I needed to have was a consistent grading scale. What percent grade was I going to say constituted an A or an A minus or a B plus, and so on and so forth. To get started, I looked at a lot of different grading scales for the area school systems around me. And most of them are pretty much the same. There might be like a percent difference between what they think is an A minus and a B plus, but for the most part, they were all pretty similar. Part of my reasoning of looking at other school systems was that when my kids apply to college, they're likely to be applying at a lot of the same schools that other Indiana students are applying to. And I wanted the colleges to be able to look at how my students did in high school and be able to make a reasonable comparison to other applicants. So this is the grading scale up here on the screen that we utilize. My kids have a copy of this in their planners, so that way they know what it is they would need to get on each individual assignment in order to reach a particular grade. Now, assignments can vary. Some will be out of a set number of points. For example, a math assignment with 30 problems, they might get 28 out of 30 and whatnot, but then we just convert that to a percentage before I enter it into our grade book. So that was step one, was getting a grading scale and knowing that that's the one we're going to stick to for all 4 years that they are doing high school. So the next step was to figure out how we were going to take letter grades and convert them into a GPA. Most of us are familiar with the whole concept of a 4.0 GPA, that perfect GPA. A lot of the school systems here in Indiana, when they are figuring out a student's GPA, they do it on a 12-point scale. I liked the idea of a 12.0 scale because it's very easy to understand. It's very easy to do the conversion. It simply means that an A plus is worth 12 points, an A is worth 11 points, an A minus 10, and it goes down the list. In fact, you can see again here that we have this on the same document that we have our grading scale on, so the kids can see their percent grades, the letter grades, and how many quality points. Now, we do weight some classes. Weighting a class simply means that you give it more credit towards the GPA, maybe because it's a harder class. So any class that we say is an honors class automatically is worth an additional quality point. So if you get an A plus in an honors class, instead of earning 12 quality points, you earn 13. If they go ahead and they do a dual enrollment class or an AP class, that is going to be weighted 2 points higher, but they have to earn a C or better in that class for it to count. This is just keeping it consistent with how most of the schools in Indiana do it as well. AP classes don't count, or you can't take the AP test to earn that AP credit if you don't hit a C average or higher. So I wanted to let the kids know that if they choose to do those harder classes, that I was expecting them to put the effort in and to make sure that they were earning no lower than a C average. Now, we don't really plan to do much in the way of AP classes because getting access to the test is quite hard. We do plan to start doing dual enrollment classes once my daughter hits her 11th grade year next year. And then a lot of the classes that we're doing are meant to prepare them for taking the CLEP exams. But that's a whole nother video. But as far as determining GPA, just know that we have our 0 to 12 scale, which is our standard one. We have the bump up by 1 point if they do an honors class, and then the bump up by 2 points if they do an AP class. I do want to add in one quick note here on grading on a 4.0 scale. So a 4.0 scale works a little bit differently than the 12.0 scale. It's not as simple as simply taking 12 and dividing it by 3 and getting a new one, because it won't quite match up with the same GPA. This is the website gpacalculator.net, and this is an example of their 4.0 scale, standard one used by most US high schools and colleges. So if you want to put a 4.0 based GPA on your transcripts as opposed to a 12, you just need to make sure that you include that note on your transcript, what grading scale you're using. And you can look at this website. Again, it's gpacalculator.net, and you can convert a letter grade to a 4.0 scale. So maybe when you do your pages or determine like how you're going to track it, instead of a 12-point scale, you decide you're going to use the 4.0 scale. You can see like an A+ is 4 points, an A is 4 points, A- is 3.7, and so on. So it is a little bit different than the 12.0 scale. To then calculate the GPA, you have to know how many credits you're assigning for each course. It really doesn't matter if you're doing half credits or full credits. The math will ultimately kind of come out the same. Again, we count a 1 semester or half a year course as 1 credit, and a full year course we count as 2 credits. That's just keeping it in line with how Indiana keeps track of credits at all of the other schools. What I will do then is I will look at all of their classes, and I will figure out what the quality point is that they earned for that year. So let's say one of my students got an A in English, and English is a 2 semester or 2 credit course. They'll have earned 11 credits or 11 quality points for that course. I multiply that by 2, which is how many credits they got for it, and I get 22 points. Then I will add that to the quality points earned for all of their other courses. Once I have those added together, I simply divide it by the total number of credit hours that were received for that year, and that gives me their GPA on the 0 to 12 point scale. Just to give you a quick math example here, I will go ahead and just show one that I did an example of for the kids in their planner so they could see this in action. So let's say you got English for 2 credits and you got an A+. You took a science class for 2 credits and got a B, history for 2 credits and got a B+, and you took PE for 1 credit and got an A. So English, you earned 12 quality points times 2 credits, 24 points. Science, you earned 8 quality points times 2, got 16. History, 9 quality points times 2 credits is 18. And PE, 11 quality points times 1 credit is 11. If you add all of those up, you have 69 quality points, and you have 7 credit hours. So 69 divided by 7, we get a 9.86. And they can look back and they can see that a 9.86 puts them roughly between a B+ and an A-. So a high B+ on that GPA. I also provided them with a second example showing them how by doing an honors level class and getting the exact same grade, they can improve their GPA. So just a quick show of the math here. If all we did was change that English course to an honors one, instead of earning 12 quality points for it, they would have earned 13. And so we would have had 71 total points divided by 7 credit hours, and they would have got a 10.14. So now their GPA is essentially an A- as opposed to a B+. And that's simply by making one course an honors course. So you have a grading scale that you want to use, and you know how to calculate a GPA, but how do you actually keep track of all of these different assignments your students are doing and convert those things and the percentages they get on those into a final grade for the class? Well, I utilize a free tool that I found several years ago that has been a complete lifesaver for our homeschool in helping me to figure out the grade for each class, as well as easily converting that into a letter grade and then into their GPA. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take you through this resource, show you how it is I use it and how it's been really beneficial for me. Okay, so this has been one of my favorite tools that I have for our homeschool. This comes from 5js.com. and it is their free gradebook that you can download for Excel. When you download it, this is what it's going to look like. You'll see that there is a summary page, an attendance page, room for up to 12 courses, a book list page, activities tracking, field trip tracking, a grade report, and a course list. A lot of the cells in this Excel document are protected, or they have auto formulas, so that way things will populate where they need to. But you can customize things. So you can put in the student name and the year. I just put my name in here to give you an example, and I'm just going to put in a name for here. You don't need to put anything in for total school days because that will feed over from your attendance page. Right now, we don't see any credits or course names or grades. That will, again, auto-populate as we edit things. And then over here is your grading scale. Now, you can adjust this. So you can just go in and you can change it to whatever you want for your grading scale. So whatever grading scale you decide to use, you can plug that in on here. The attendance page will automatically keep track of days you do school. Oops, sorry, scrolling around there. So let's say I started school on August 1st. I would put in a 1 for August 1st, and it shows that my school days so far is 1. And you'll see that that moved over to the summary page as well. So with my kids, I just put in a 1 for each day we do school, and I just go by the dates that we do it. This helps me to quickly see if we are on track for our 180 days. Each course page looks like this, and there's a few things you can customize on here, starting with the credits for the course. You can decide how many credits you want to assign that course. So let's just say that I'm going to do a 2-credit course or a full year course. I'm going to change that to 2. And then over here under course description and resources used, this is where I choose to put in the description of the course we're doing. I tend to do something that is pretty detailed because this is what I'm going to use over on our transcripts eventually, but you could do it however you want. Let's just say I'm going to call this English 12, and then I could put in what it is we're going to be covering or what curriculum we're going to be using on there. Down here where it says course 1, if I want to easily be able to find that, I can just rename this to English 12. So when I'm entering in grades, I can find the tab that I want rather quickly. Now this is where I can start deciding how I want to determine the grade for that class. So this does a weighted grade. Now you might choose to not split up the credit for things like quizzes and tests and daily work and whatnot, or you might decide that you want to have some things be more important than others. So I'm going to say that daily work, so like worksheets and things like that, are going to be worth 40% of my total grade. Quizzes that I have to take are going to be worth 10%. Tests are going to be worth 25%. And you can see it's adding it up. So I need this to be 100%. Well, maybe for English 12, I'm going to occasionally have some papers, and I'm going to make those papers work 25% because I think that those are important. I can also rename that column papers. So you can rename all of these different categories. You can also adjust what percentage of the total grade you want it to be as long as it comes up to 100%. This is really nice because I can customize it from class to class. And then over here, I can just start entering in grades. So let's say on 8-1, I did a daily assignment and I got 100% on it. Now you're going to notice that what it's doing here is it is counting that 100% that I got on there as 40% of the total grade. And so this is what the weighted average is. Now, right now, the grade is showing that it's only 40, and that's because I don't have anything in these other categories yet. Once I start having things in all of the different categories I've made, then that grade will start to look a bit more accurate, but I can still see what the raw average is for that class. So let's say on 8-2-22, I had an assignment I got a 95% on it, and I took a quiz and I got 100%. Now you can see that my raw average for daily work has changed to 97.5, and the weighted average went down to 39. and you can see what my weighted average is here for quizzes and what it counts towards my overall grade. And as I add in more things, let's say I took a test, I got 100%. Let's say I did a paper and I got 80%. Once I have something in all of the categories, now I can see what my grade is really looking like for that class. Again, this is really nice because I can decide at the start of the year how I want to weight grades, or maybe things change through the year. I decide that we're not going to focus so much on papers, but I want daily work to be more important. So I'm going to change my daily work percentage to 50, and I'm going to cut papers down to 20. And it will give you a warning if your total is adding up to more or less than 100. So I changed that to 20. And now you can see that that adjusts my overall grade because I've adjusted how much weight each part of that class is good for. For me, I put in the date assignments are done, and over in the notes is where I put what the assignment was. I won't do anything crazy, but maybe I'll just do it's like the lesson 1 worksheet, or, you know, quiz chapter 1, test chapter 1. And that's partly from my records, so I know, you know, where that grade came from or what we were working on when we got that grade. One thing you can do too is this sheet right here, so you can see where it says student name down here. If you write the course name in there, that will populate the course name on here for you, and then also have that on your grade report. So let's just go ahead and we'll do that for these other 2 ones that I did. So there's biology and there's history. And now on my grade report, I have all of the courses along with the credits and the grade that I'm getting so far. All right, everybody, that wraps things up for today. Thank you so much for joining me for today's video. If it was helpful to you, please don't forget to give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel so you can be notified when I post new homeschooling and mom life content. Have a great week, everybody. See you on the next one.